Hello guys, good morning to all of you. Today we are going to discuss about Preamble of the Indian Constitution, Philosophy of the Constitution. This is Dr. J. Sarunan. This topic is from Module 1. In the previous video, I have explained to you what is the syllabus. I have introduced to you this course. Okay. Through previous video, I have also told you that what is the course code, then title of the course, that is Indian Constitution, and course type, that is LT, that is lecture and tutorial method. Then this is the 3 credit course that also I have told you. And apart from that, I also explained to you course objective, then course outcome, then students outcome. Then I have also explained to you the 5 modules, the first module, second module, and third module, and 5th module. Then in the 6th module, I have also told you that I'll be inviting one of the expert of the Indian Constitution in order to talk with you. Then apart from that, I have also explained to you what is the teaching and evaluation method. So teaching method, into the teaching method, I told you that due to COVID-19 we are going online, and henceforth I'll be conducting a lecture in the what called Zoom app in the online. Otherwise I will record the audio and I'll send it to you through either Moodle or WhatsApp or any other medium, which you'll be going through, and weekly twice or once you will be coming online in order to clarify your doubts. So this is the things that I've told you. Then in evaluation and assessment, which I've talked about in the previous video, in that I've said you will be evaluated as whatever the behavior that you are showing. That is one part. Another part is that so you need to go through this video, and whatever the question that I am asking every time we come online, if you are answering that one, you will be given certain marks for that. Apart from that, generally whatever the CAT 1, CAT 2 exam, then CAT 2 exam, then term and exam, it will be conducted generally as we conduct. Then apart from that, I have also told you the reference. So what are the books that you can refer apart from the PPT that I sent you, apart from the video that I sent you? Then the material that I sent you, there are a few books that I have given in the syllabus itself, that you can note it down and you can read for your reference. So coming back to this topic, today is the first topic that we are discussing. This is the preamble of the Indian Constitution, philosophy of the Constitution. Without delay, let us go into the next slide. As we talk about the philosophy of the Constitution, first of all, you must know that what do you mean by philosophy, and what is philosophy. We may use in day-to-day life philosophy. It is my philosophy to live a life like this, or it is their philosophy is to live a life like this, or some of the organization philosophy you would have heard, or some of the groups philosophy that you would have heard. So but then we don't know exactly what this philosophy means. So here philosophy means nothing but it's a theory or a kind of attribute which guides anyone. So in order to write the Constitution, also Constitution was written by a group of people, and that group of people is called Constituent Assembly. So the people, Constituent Assembly, how these assembly members were chosen, it is through election. Through election, actually Indian people of India, actually they cast their vote and they choose their representative, and they send it to Constituent Assembly, and thereby Constituent Assembly members wrote the Constitution. So when they were writing the Constitution, they had something in their mind. How they had something in their mind? When they read all the things, India's history, all these things, they kept all these things in mind, and they kept some documents also in their mind, then they write the Constitution. They wrote the Constitution. So one such document is historic objective resolution. This resolution was written by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and it was adopted by the Constituent Assembly in the year 1947 and January 22nd. So I have explained the PPT itself, what do you mean by philosophy, that you can go through. I'll be circulating the PPT to you also for your convenience. Okay, so you can go through, and whatever the lecture or whatever I'm talking in the video, that also you can do kind of follow. Okay, so we will look at like objective resolution has some 8 points. Okay, so it is not a very lengthy document that like we can skip. So I thought like let me introduce you this objective resolution itself, so that like you will be able to what called identify, or you can keep in your mind what is this what called all about this objective resolution. Okay, so this objective resolution is a resolution that defines the aim of the assembly. Like when the assembly gathered, the assembly should have had some kind of aim. So this objective resolution gives them the aim aim to write, like how they can go about writing this constitution. It was moved by the Nehru in 1946, adopted is different date and moved is different date. Okay, so you should know the difference between what called adopted and moved. In the previous slide I talked about adopted, and in this slide I am talking about moved by the Nehru in 1947, and it was unanimously accepted, and it was adopted also in the later period that you could have seen. Okay, on the basis of this objective resolution, India's constitution gave institutional expression to the what called fundamental commitments. Okay, we had since we got independence from Britishers, okay, we also decided that like we will have a democratic form of government, that too what called Westminster form of what called government that we will have. That is what like we have decided. What is this Westminster form of government? Westminster is nothing but in British kind of what called parliamentary form of government that we will have. That was decided by the Constituent Assembly, and they also decided that like they will borrow some of the important contents of the constitution across the world. Okay, democratic countries constitution across the world. Okay, so they gave the what called borrowed this what called concepts as well, like concepts such as equality, liberty, democracy, sovereignty, and cosmopolitan identity. If we talk, these concepts are like very abstract as long as you give some kind of institutional expression. You may ask me like, what is this institutional expression? When you say equality or liberty, okay, so unless and until it has some kind of institutional expression, you may not be able to implement it. It will be what called kind of concept only. How you can give institutional expression? In the previous video also itself, like I have talked about, I have explained to you the three organs of the government. One is that legislature, which is law making body; executive, which is law implementation body; and judiciary, which is overseeing both legislature and executive, whether they are following the constitution or not. Okay, so this what does constitution says that okay, equality is being said. Equality is a what called fundamental commitment which has been like adopted by the what called India, and it is because of what called objective resolution. It is because of these concepts were mentioned in the objective resolution that we can see. Okay, so equality is a concept as long as it is not given some kind of concrete shape. This concrete shape was given by what called constitution. In the constitution, it was mentioned that if the people are like not treated equally, okay, those who are treating anyone inferior or like anyone themselves if they are treating superior, then like this equality concept is no more relevance. Okay, so equality has been like to some extent is being given institutional expression through the constitution that okay, if anybody is not treated equally, okay, their fundamental rights are violated, and thereby like they can go to the Supreme Court in order to get the what called compensation or like whatever the correction that the Supreme Court can make. Okay, they have the right to make. Okay, so Supreme Court is a supreme authority, like apex court in India, and judiciary at the top. Okay, so they are guaranteeing this what called they are guaranteeing these concepts or these fundamental commitment, okay, to the what called citizens. Okay, so if you are not equally treated, then those people like who are treating them unequally, okay, they will be punished. Okay, at the same time, liberty, if the government or like any individual is not violating the what called any individual's freedom, okay, freedom to write, freedom to speech, freedom to expression, freedom to live a life, okay. So all these things, if they are what called violating, then there is a possibility that Supreme Court may come forward and they may what called impose penalty on the government, or like give some kind of punishment to those people like who are violating this one. Okay, so these concepts that you could see, it has got some kind of institutional expression, as I've said, okay, because of the objective resolution it is being said. Okay, so let us see now what is this objective resolution. Okay, so objective resolution, as I've said, like in the what called some time back, there are 8 points in objective resolution. I'm not going to explain you each and everything in an elaborate fashion, okay, but some of the terminology that you could see here, you will be what called learning in the what called future. Okay, so the first point, which talks about the Constituent Assembly declares its firm and solemn resolve to proclaim India as an independent sovereign republic and to draw for her future governance constitution. Okay, so they have decided in the objective resolution that they have decided that India should be independent, India should be sovereign, India should be republic. Okay, I'll be explaining you what do you mean by independent, what do you mean by sovereign, and what do you mean by republic as well. Okay, so the second point, which talks about the territory of then British India. Okay, I have told you in the 47 when it was adopted, even then also 22nd January when it was adopted, India was not independent. Okay, 47 in 1947, 15th August only India became independent. Okay, so when it was adopted, it was not independent. So that's why like all the territory which now comprise British India, that now means that in 1947 January. Okay, so all these territories are included when we pass this objective resolution. Okay, the third point is that, okay, it talks about again boundary, it talks about law of the constitution, it talks about what are the autonomous units, like status of the autonomous unit. It also talks about, okay, what is this autonomous unit. When before independence, India was having around like consist of more than 500 princely states. Okay, princely state, although it was not directly ruled by the Britishers, okay, but they were paying the tax and they were subjected to Britishers. British laws were applicable in these areas, but then like they were not ruled directly, administered by these Britishers, but administered by this prince and kings and queens. Okay, so they were like actually paying the tax to the Britishers. Okay, and law and order also, if it is getting worse situation, then like Britishers sent their army to control this territory. Okay, so this there also this objective resolution will be applicable. That is what they have said. Okay, and in this third point, it also talks about powers and functions of the government and administration. Okay, that also it has been talked about. Okay, and in the fourth point that you could. Fourth point, it also again talks about organs of the government and how sovereign and independent India and its constituent part it also talks about. Okay, and one of the main thing here in the fourth point that you can see is that, okay, all these organs of the government or its constituent part, everything is derived from the people. Okay, so people have been given sovereign power in the sense that, okay, ultimate power people has been given. Okay, so now you could see like how even now also India's India's form of government is set up in such a way that, okay, people are casting their vote in order to send the representative to the parliament, and in the parliament those representatives actually make the law. Okay, this law was implemented by those members at the higher echelon. Okay, so those who are elected by the people, like Prime Minister and its Council of Ministers, they are implementing this law. Okay, and this is being overseen by supervised by the judiciary. Okay, that is what you could see. So ultimately people have the sovereign power. Okay, every 5 years they will check whether the particular government whom we have voted to power, they are working or not, their policies are good or not. Okay, accordingly the new government, new party will be handed over the power. Like for example, in 2014, 2004 to 14 UPA government was ruling. In 2014 NDA came to power, and NDA started ruling under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In 2019 also people felt that in the previous 5 years, okay, Narendra Modi government under its leadership, okay, they have performed very well. So with a thumping majority they have been re-elected again. Okay, so in the next election they will be deciding that whether Narendra Modi government in these 5 years, like whether they have performed well or not. Okay, so the fifth point is that, okay, so ultimately what I mean to say here is that, okay, people have the supreme power. Okay, people will be deciding who will be in power and what kind of government it is. Okay, even in the Constituent Assembly also, the members of the Constituent Assembly, they were elected by the people only. Okay, so in the fifth point it is very important. Okay, the fundamental commitment that I have talked in the previous slide. Okay, so that is being reflected here. Okay, so let me read it out for you so that like you will be able to understand. Okay, wherein shall be guaranteed and secured to all the people of India justice, socio-economic, social, economic and political, equality of status of opportunity and before the law, freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, vocation, association and action, subject to law and public morality. Okay, so all this is, whether it could be a justice in terms of social justice or economic justice or political justice, okay, equality in terms of status and opportunity, okay, or before law, like how people are like treated equally or not. Okay, that is also is being mentioned. Okay, what kind of freedom that you have, thinking freedom or like expression freedom, belief freedom, faith and worship freedom, okay, vocation, association, all these things are mentioned in the what called fifth point. Okay, sixth point talks about like any country wherein in a democratic country majority works very often. Okay, so at the same time it doesn't mean that like minorities are always sidelined. Democracy has a full meaning or complete meaning, okay, when their minorities in their country is being respected or is being what called safeguarded. Okay, otherwise like the very purpose of the democracy is defeated. Okay, so I will also talk about in the what called subsequent slides, okay, how these minorities plays a very important role in our India. Okay, so whether they are backward or they are tribals or they are depressed in the sense that like SC, ST, okay, there are other backward classes, OBCs, all these people should be what called given ample space in order to what called develop themselves. Okay, so in the seventh point talks about the integrity, maintaining the integrity of the territory of the republic and its sovereign rights on land, sea and air. Okay, so the eighth point ultimately like the last point which talks about India is not thinking about itself only, but then like India is thinking about the world also, world countries also. Okay, so how India is thinking about world countries? Okay, India is striving forward to promote the world peace. Okay, welfare of the mankind. Okay, there are like many instances wherein like India has what called volunteered in order to help other countries when they are in crisis. Like for example, in 2004 when tsunami came, India was also affected, but what India did is that India has sent relief materials to not only Sri Lanka and many other countries who were severely affected. So India is not only thinking about ourselves, like we are also thinking about others also. Like for example, another example that I would like to draw your attention is that, okay, in South Africa, like till recently, like in 1990, our Indian cricket team was not playing with what called South Africa voluntarily. Our Indian team was not visiting South Africa because they were practicing what called apartheid. Apartheid is nothing but racial discrimination. Okay, that black people were African race people were tortured and they were not treated as equal with white people. Okay, so Nelson Mandela went to jail because of that only. So you could see like people have struggled and ultimately they even black people also got the same rights as what called white people. Okay, so here you could see India was what called raising the concern against this what called racial discrimination of the South Africa in many forums. Okay, so this is the way like that India has tried to promote world peace and welfare of humankind. Okay. So while talking about this resolution, Jawaharlal Nehru said that this resolution is something more than a resolution. It is a declaration, a firm resolve, a pledge, an undertaking, for all of us a dedication. Okay. And the philosophy and ideals of the Indian Constitution are reflected in the preamble. Okay. Not only in the objective resolution, but preamble also, one of the preamble. What is preamble? Preamble is a abstract of Indian Constitution. Okay, so whatever the things written in the preamble, okay, that has been expanded in the Indian Constitution, that has been written in detail in the Indian Constitution. Preamble did. Okay, so preamble is also being taken as a philosophy of the Indian Constitution. Okay, so our Constitution may be said to be an expansion and explanation of the preamble that I have already said to you. Justice Subbarao, who is a former Chief Justice of Supreme Court, okay, he opined that preamble contains in a nutshell its ideals and its aspirations. Okay, to understand the philosophy and ideals of the Indian Constitution, we must know the preamble in first place. So let us know the first of all preamble. What is preamble? Okay, how it was written. Okay, what are the conditions were there? Then that we will look at. Okay. So this is what preamble. As I read, I would request all of you to read along with me, so that you will know what is preamble. And being a citizen, being an Indian citizen, you must know what is your constitution, country's constitution, what are the rights that country's constitution gives. How we can approach for the justice if you are met with the injustice, and what are the rights that is being given to you. So that you need to know how our country is formed, how our countries were formed, and on what are the conditions this country was formed. So how much proud we should be being an Indian, that also you should know. Wherein many other countries, they have written the constitution, and time and again they had to change the constitution, or some autocratic government has overtaken. But as far as India's case is concerned, India has never changed the constitution. At the same time, even some of the developed countries have changed 5 times. For example, France has changed their constitution 5 times. But in India, we have sustained this constitution more than 7 decades. So we should be proud of. And what happened is previously, when India got independence, India was very suspicious that many countries were suspicious that the developed countries, democratic countries, so-called democratic countries, they were suspicious that with so much diversity, how India can sustain its unity. So that is what they have said. I'll tell you some of the instances wherein how India was looked down, but now India has been seen as a laboratory for them. So how these concepts fundamental commitments that I have said, how it is working, how India could be united for such a long time despite of this diversity. So all these things are there, that I'll be discussing subsequently. But let us read first of all preamble, and when you're reading, be proud of Indian. So we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, the 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give it to ourselves this Constitution. This is what preamble. Now on 26th day of November 1949, it was adopted, it was enacted and gave it to ourselves. So it is written by none other than our representative, and we have selected them. So that is why we wrote this constitution, we gave it to ourselves. So if any question asked, when did our constitution was adopted, you should say 26th day of November 1949. You should not say 26th January 1950. In 26th January 1950, it came into force, or it was implemented. Otherwise adopted, enacted and gave it to ourselves this constitution on 26th day of November 1949. Now we will see like what is the importance of this preamble in the entire constitution, that we need to look at it. Okay, so if we want to know what is the importance of preamble in the constitution, we have to look back and see what are the decision is being made by the Supreme Court, that we have to see. Okay, two cases are important in this regard. Okay, one is Berubari case and another one is the Keshavananda Bharati case versus state of Kerala. Okay, what is this Berubari case? You must be wondering that like what is this Berubari case? Berubari case is a dispute between India and Pakistan, okay, over the land. Okay, it's related with that one. Okay, in Bangladesh there is the one tehsil. When Britishers left, they submitted the map also to India by saying that okay, these are the territory of India and these are the territory of Pakistan. And by mistake, okay, that one tehsil was left over, and that one tehsil was not clearly mentioned in the map. Okay, so there was a what called misunderstanding. Like there was a what called misunderstanding between India and what called Pakistan, then Bangladesh, then East Pakistan. Okay, Bangladesh was West Pakistan till 1971 India-Pakistan war. After that, Bangladesh got independence from the what called Pakistan. Till then, in Pakistan was called West Pakistan and Bangladesh was called East Pakistan. Due to religion, they identified themselves as same and they formed one country. But languages overtaken. Okay, the religious identity once they realized that okay, they identified themselves with the language rather than religion. Okay, that is about identity things. Okay, here what happened? So like we had Pakistan was telling that Berubari was in their side and India was telling that Berubari was India's side. Okay, so in that time Jawaharlal Nehru came into the focus, and he said that like let us divide this what called land into two, and first half can be taken by Pakistan and another half can be taken by India. Okay, so when this was done, after that like this case was came to the highlight, and in the parliament opposition party raised the question that okay, what kind of right that Jawaharlal Nehru has to give away our territory to any foreign country. This question was raised, and this case was also filed in the Supreme Court, and that is the outcome of this case is that okay, it was said that like preamble is a part of constitution. That is where like it was said. Okay, preamble is not a part of constitution. That is what it said. Pardon me. Preamble is not a part of constitution. It was said. Okay, in the Berubari case. Okay, in the Keshavananda Bharati case, it is another landmark judgment which was given by the Supreme Court, and it was this is where like they have said like what is the basic principles of Indian Constitution. Okay, whether the preamble is a part of constitution, basic principles also was the concept of basic principles also came into being in the Keshavananda Bharati case only. I'll tell you what are the what do you mean by the basic principles concept of constitution. Okay, let me explain to you first of all, so that like you will know and you can connect yourself with the this Keshavananda Bharati case. Okay. Basic principles are those principles which cannot be amended by the parliament. Okay, so there are like some sections of the constitution which is called to be very basic. Okay, so very basic and that cannot be amended by the parliament. Okay, so like for example fundamental rights, okay, which is addition can be done. Okay, the other rights like right to privacy was added. Okay, so addition can be done, right to education was added, but you cannot take it away any individual's fundamental rights or fundamental rights. You cannot delete or you cannot change anything. Okay, change anything in the sense that if it is a negatively affecting any citizens. Okay, so in this case, like before this case, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi actually wanted to change the constitution according to their the government's favor or like individual favor. She brought an amendment called 39th Amendment. What is this amendment? Amendment is nothing but it's a procedure followed by the parliament in order to change the constitution, any part of the constitution, any section or any provision of the constitution. Okay, so amendment was brought in the parliament, and it was passed also, and it was signed by the president also. But this 39th Amendment was what called rejected by the Supreme Court by saying that one section of the 39th Amendment was rejected by the Supreme Court by saying that, okay, it is affecting the basic principles of what called Constitution. Okay. So what was that case is all about? Okay. She said that like election of the president, vice president, and what called prime minister and deputy prime minister cannot be questioned in any court of law. Court of law means in any court. Okay, cannot be challenged. Their election cannot be challenged in any court, and that election cannot be what called, they will not come under the what called judiciary purview of the under the purview of the judiciary. That is what they have said. Okay, this is what about Keshwananda Bharati case. Okay. In the Keshwananda Bharati case, while dealing with this case, okay, the Supreme Court also said that, okay, preamble is a very much part of the Constitution. If you read the book, you may come across many other such cases, but I have pointed out only two important cases. When I am asking question related to this one, you can also highlight these cases only. Okay. Although it is not enforceable in a court of law, okay, preamble cannot be enforced in the court of law. How you can say that? Okay, when anybody is approaching the what called Supreme Court, by saying that the rights which is mentioned, the things which is mentioned in the preamble, it is not being provided to me. That on the basis of preamble, you cannot claim anything to the court. Okay, or in the court of law, you can claim anything. Okay, on what basis you can claim? Constitution basis, but not preamble, on the basis of preamble. Okay. So what does this preamble does? If it is not enforceable in the court of law, okay, what else preamble does? Preamble, what preamble does? Preamble to a written constitution state the object which the constitution seeks to establish and promote, and also aid the what called legal interpretation of the constitution where the language is found to be ambiguous. Okay. Here two things two important roles that preamble does is that, okay, if any doubt comes in the entire constitution, okay, Supreme Court or like Parliament, they can always look back to the preamble. Okay, what does this preamble talks as a whole? They can look back. Okay, so like that preamble will help them to get a clarification. Okay. Like for example, legal interpretation of the constitution, if they find any ambiguous meaning for any particular word. For example, one word can be understood in a several way. Okay, so who will decide that this meaning is for this word? That is decided by none other than the Supreme Court. Okay, Supreme Court, whatever the Supreme Court says, that is a final interpretation of any word, any word which is considered to be very ambiguous in nature. Okay, so this like Supreme Court also, when they are deciding that this is the meaning of this word, then like they will look back to the preamble and they will study the preamble and they will say that like what is the broader meaning of this word. Okay, so preamble does two things. One is that in the legal interpretation they help. Okay, when the ambiguity comes in understanding any meaning, that also they will look at it. Preamble to our constitution serves two purposes. One is that it indicates the source from which the constitution derives its authority. Okay. Another one is that the object which the constitution seeks to establish and what called promote. Okay. What preamble does, like apart from this what called ambiguous meaning and legal interpretation, okay, it also what called it also plays as source for the constitution. Okay, it's like when constitution, like Supreme Court has any doubt with regards to the constitution or Parliament has any doubts with regards to the constitution, they look back to the what called preamble. Okay, so where does this constitution derives its authority? It is preamble only. Okay, preamble gives the power to the constitution and thereby like constitution gives the power to the people. Okay, so it also states that the object which the constitution seeks to establish and promote. Okay, the objective of the constitution is mentioned in the what called preamble. Okay, what are the objectives that constitution should follow or the organs of the government should follow while following the constitution? Okay, that is said by the what called preamble only. Okay. Okay, so that's all for today. This video. In the next video, we will be looking at the features of the Indian Constitution and various expression contained in the preamble. Okay.